She works 2 jobs. In the morning, she brews coffee. At night, she mixes cocktails. Not to live for herself, but to support her depressed younger brother, the only family she has left. Every dollar is a dream she lets go. Every shift is a tear she swallows. Then comes a single date, a moment she allows herself to dream of something beyond debt and sleeping pills, a refined, warm man. And that very moment turns her into a gold digger in the headlines. The one who spread the lie? Her own grandmother, the same woman who held her hand at her mother's funeral. Now she stands before a choice, the first love of her life, or the last sibling she has left. Her heart wants one thing. Her mind demands a sacrifice. What would you choose if you were her? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow the channel to see the rest of this story. Your answer might help a woman out there find herself. The morning rush at the Morning Haven Cafe came like a wave. Ariel moved with the rhythm of it, the hiss of steam and the clatter of cups hiding the tired ache in her bones. Her hands were rough, small scars from years of hot metal and broken glass. She smiled anyway. Always smiled. Behind the counter, she checked the clock. 2 more hours until break. 3 missed calls from the school. Her stomach tightened, but she pushed it down. Not here, not now. "Double latte, no foam," a customer barked. She nodded, pouring with steady hands, pretending not to notice the sting of exhaustion behind her eyes. The rent was due. The lights had flickered twice last night, and Luca, her brother, had skipped class again. She slipped her phone back into her apron, forcing another practiced smile. The bell over the door chimed, and another flood of people entered, cold air swirling around her feet. Ariel inhaled the scent of roasted beans, sweet cream, and survival. Every day it was the same. Coffee, orders, faces that never looked up. Until one day, one man did. He stood at the counter like he didn't belong to this world. Tall, composed, wrapped in a gray suit that caught the morning light. His eyes, steel gray, carried the kind of quiet power that came from boardrooms and sleepless nights. "Large black coffee," he said, voice low, "and whatever you recommend for someone who hasn't slept in 36 hours. Ariel blinked, caught off guard by his tone. Not demanding, just tired. "That bad, huh?" He almost smiled. "Worse. I'm trying to save a company that might not want to be saved." She found herself reaching for 2 cups instead of 1. "Then you'll need our secret weapon. 4 shots, a touch of caramel, and a prayer for your heart." His lips curved, the faintest ghost of humor. "If I die, you'll be haunted." She met his gaze for the first time and felt something shift. A stillness inside the storm. He wasn't supposed to notice her, but he did. The drinks were ready. She slid them across the counter, her fingers brushing his. Just a second, barely that, but enough to send a small electric jolt through her chest. He didn't pull away. He looked at her like he was trying to memorize the moment. "Thank you," he said, softer this time. Ariel swallowed, suddenly aware of every sound. The hum of the machine, the chatter, the rain tapping the windows. The world moved, but for a heartbeat, it felt like it paused. He dropped a 20 into the tip jar. "For the coffee," he said, then added, "and for the laugh." She wanted to ask his name, but he was already leaving, his silhouette fading into the gray morning. For a long time after, she kept wiping the same spot on the counter, the warmth of his touch still ghosting her skin. She didn't know he would come back. She didn't know this was how storms begin. The shift ended at 2. Her body ached from standing, but she didn't slow down. Bills waited at home, and so did Luca. 4 flights of stairs later, she reached their apartment. The paint was peeling, the air heavy with damp and dust. "Luca?" she called. No answer. He was where she knew he'd be, sitting in the dark, surrounded by torn sketches, headphones on, shutting out the world. She knelt beside him, careful not to touch too quickly. "Hey, kid, school called." A shrug. Silence. His art was all shadows, faces she didn't know, eyes that looked like pain. Ariel touched one page gently. "These are good." "They're nothing," he muttered. "Then we'll make something tomorrow," she said. "Together." He didn't reply, but he didn't turn away either. In the kitchen, she checked the empty fridge, the stack of bills on the table. The weight of it pressed down on her shoulders. Still, she whispered to herself, "We'll make it. We always do." And for a moment, she almost believed it. The Belmont House Hotel glowed like a dream someone else was living. Ariel tied her apron, pushing through the ache in her feet. The night shift had a rhythm. Music, laughter, glasses clinking, people with lives bigger than hers. She moved behind the bar, her smile automatic, until she heard a voice. "Whiskey neat." Her hands froze. She looked up. Silas Ward stood across from her, the same storm-gray eyes, only sharper under the soft hotel light. "You again?" she said, a breath between disbelief and something else. "I could say the same," he replied. "Are you following me?" She laughed, quiet, real. "I work here. No haunting required." He smiled back, that small, tired curve that didn't quite hide the weight behind it. For a moment, the noise of the ballroom faded. It was just the two of them, caught between her world of service and his world of power, two strangers crossing the same line again. He leaned on the counter, loosening his tie. "Rough crowd tonight," he said. She poured his drink, sliding it toward him. "Part of my job? Saving souls one drink at a time." He met her eyes. "Then I'm your toughest case." Ariel laughed softly. It came out lighter than she felt. "You look like someone who hasn't laughed in a while." He swirled the amber liquid. "Not since I started sleeping in boardrooms." She tilted her head. "That bad?" He exhaled. "Let's just say when money and trust start fighting, one of them dies first." Something in her chest tightened. She didn't know him, but she knew that tone, the quiet fatigue of someone who'd carried too much for too long. Their eyes met, a slow, careful recognition. The kind that felt like standing on the edge of something you shouldn't want, but already do. The commotion started near the ballroom doors, a man yelling, security trying to calm him. Silas's jaw tensed. "Corporate lawyer," he muttered. "My ex-wife's messenger." "Follow me," Ariel whispered. She led him through a narrow service hallway, the hum of machines fading into the night air. They stepped onto a small balcony overlooking the quiet streets of Savannah. "Your secret hideout?" he asked. "More like a place to breathe." Below, the city lights flickered against the river. Above them, the world seemed to pause. He leaned on the railing. "I worked too much. Lost a marriage trying to save a company. Now I'm trying to prove I'm not the villain in her story." Ariel looked down at her hands. "I lost my mom. Cancer. 2 years ago." Their voices softened into the same rhythm. 2 different losses, 1 shared ache. For the first time, neither of them felt alone. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again. "Luca." She answered, already on edge. His voice cracked through the line, small, broken. "I can't breathe, Ari. The walls are closing in." Her heart stopped. "Listen to me, baby. Put on that Rain playlist. I'm coming home." She looked at Silas. His concern was immediate, instinctive. "Go," he said. "Whatever this is, go." She nodded, words caught in her throat. "Thank you," she whispered, and ran. The night rain hit her face as she rushed through the glowing streets, the hotel fading behind her. Silas stayed on that balcony long after she was gone, staring at the empty space where she'd stood. He'd come to Savannah to save his company. Now, without knowing why, he wanted to save her. The apartment door was unlocked. Her chest tightened. "Luca?" He was on the floor, surrounded by shredded paper. The sketches she loved. Torn, ruined. His breath came too fast, his hands shaking. "I ruined them," he gasped. "Everything's wrong." Ariel dropped to her knees. "Hey, look at me." "You can't fix me," he yelled, voice raw. Her throat burned. "Then let me hold what's left." For a long moment, all she could do was hold him as he shook, the dim lamp flickering against the walls. Slowly, his breathing evened out, the storm inside him quieting. "You're all I've got," he whispered. She pressed her forehead to his. "And you're all I need." Outside, the rain softened. But inside, everything still trembled. The bills, the fear, the fragile love she was holding together with both hands. The next morning came quiet. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of it. Ariel sat at the table, a mug of coffee cooling in her hands, watching Luca sleep on the couch. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Are you okay? You left in such a hurry. She stared at the message for a long time. No name, no question mark that sounded demanding, just concern. She knew who it was. For a second, she hesitated. People like him didn't text people like her, but something about the words felt honest. Real. I'm fine. Rough night. Thank you for asking. She hit send before she could change her mind. Seconds passed. The reply came. Good. I was worried. You didn't deserve to face that alone. A small, reluctant smile touched her lips. He hadn't asked for anything. He just wanted to know she was okay. For the first time in days, her chest loosened. Maybe not everyone walked away when things got heavy. The texts continued. Never too much, never too soon. Sometimes a simple good morning. Sometimes a photo of the sunrise over the river. He asked nothing about her past, only about her favorite song, her coffee recipe, her brother's art. She told him about Luca's sketches, about how she missed her mother's laugh. She sounded like someone who made people brave, he wrote once. It made her pause. Silas Ward was the kind of man who could fill silence with comfort instead of noise. One night, after closing the cafe, she texted first. Did you ever fix what you were trying to save? Not yet, he answered, but maybe I found a reason to keep trying. Her hand trembled. She didn't know what to call this, friendship, kindness, or the first soft step toward trust. All she knew was that the thought of him made the night feel less empty. The bell over the cafe door rang, sharp against the hum of machines. Ariel looked up and froze. Evelyn Hartwell stood in the doorway, pearls, gloves, perfume that smelled like old money and colder judgment. Ariel, she said, voice crisp, we need to talk about Luca. Ariel's throat tightened. He's fine. He's getting better. Evelyn opened her purse and slid an envelope onto the counter. Take this. It will help. Let me arrange better care for him. Ariel didn't touch it. He doesn't need your money. He needs family. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. Pride doesn't feed a child. The words hit harder than the check ever could. I'm doing my best, Ariel said quietly. Your best won't be enough forever. Evelyn turned, the sound of her heels echoing across the tile. When she was gone, Ariel looked at the untouched envelope, the name printed in gold. She whispered to herself, he's not a charity case, and I'm not either. Then she threw the envelope into the trash and kept working. The cafe was quieter after Evelyn left, but the silence hurt more than her words. Ariel wiped the counter again and again, though it was already clean. Was she selfish? Holding on to Luca, to her pride, to this fragile life she could barely afford? Maybe Evelyn was right. Maybe love alone couldn't keep the lights on. Her reflection in the glass looked older than 29. Tired eyes, cracked knuckles, a faint tremor from too much coffee and not enough sleep. She thought of Silas, his calm voice, his steady concern. He lived in a world where money solved problems before they became pain. In hers, love meant rationing hope like sugar. That night, she found Luca asleep on the couch, a blanket half fallen. She tucked it around him and whispered, "You're the reason I get up, but sometimes I forget how to breathe." The words weren't meant to be heard. Still, they hung in the dark, as if asking her to choose between surviving and living. Morning came gray and slow. Ariel dragged herself through another shift, her body moving on habit. Orders, steam, laughter that wasn't hers. When she turned back to the counter, a cup waited there, perfect foam heart, her usual order from the shop across the street. No one claimed it. A note was tucked beneath the sleeve. Some ghosts are stubborn. S. Her throat closed. She scanned the crowd, but no gray suit, no trace of him, just strangers sipping coffee, unaware that one message had cracked something open inside her. The cup trembled in her hands. The warmth bled through the paper, into her palms, up her arms. Tears came quietly, surprising her, not because of the words, but because someone remembered. Someone cared enough to send proof. She pressed the note flat, folded it once, and hid it in her apron pocket. For the first time in weeks, her smile reached her eyes. The next night at the Belmont house, she was carrying boxes of wine down the narrow back stairs when a voice stopped her. "Need a hand?" She turned. Silas was there, jacket off, sleeves rolled, the same quiet steadiness in his gaze. "You shouldn't be here," she said, trying to hide the relief that slipped into her voice. "I had a meeting upstairs," he said, taking the box from her before she could argue. "Figured I'd help before they trap me again." He set the box down gently. "Who carries you when you're tired, Ariel?" She froze. No one had ever asked that, not once. She wanted to answer, but the words caught. He didn't push. They stood in the dim stairwell, close enough to hear each other's breathing, the hum of the building around them. It wasn't romance yet. It was something rarer, two people learning the shape of comfort without asking for more. The next few days passed quietly. They saw each other in brief moments, her behind the bar, him at a distance, their eyes meeting like a secret neither dared to name. One evening, as she wiped down a counter, he approached. "Ariel," he said, voice careful, "come to dinner with me." She looked up, startled. "Dinner?" He nodded, somewhere quiet. No crowds, no expectations. Her instinct was to say no. It wasn't her world. Fine dining, expensive silence. Still, a part of her wanted to see what breathing felt like outside of exhaustion. She hesitated. 3 days' notice, she said finally. "If my brother needs me, I go. No questions." Silas smiled, a flicker of warmth breaking through the steel. "Deal." He slipped a card across the counter. Saturday, 8 o'clock. When he walked away, she tucked it into her apron, heartbeat uneven. For the first time, she let herself imagine something fragile and dangerous. Hope. The restaurant was small, tucked between old brick buildings that smelled of history and rain. Soft jazz drifted through the air. Ariel arrived late, nerves twisting in her stomach. She wore a simple black dress she'd owned for years, one that still made her feel almost beautiful. Silas stood as she entered. "You came." "I said I would," she replied, smiling. They talked easily, about music, about Luca, about nights that felt too long. Silas listened the way few people ever did. When she laughed, really laughed, he froze, as if afraid the sound might vanish. "You make me want to trust again," he said quietly. She looked at him, the flicker of candlelight reflecting in his eyes. "Then start with dessert," she teased, her voice soft. It wasn't love yet, but it was something alive, something beginning. After dinner, they walked through the quiet streets of Savannah. The night air was warm, the city humming in its slow rhythm. From a nearby corner, a saxophone began to play, a low, lazy tune that curled through the lamplight. Ariel stopped. "I love this song." Silas held out a hand. "Then dance with me." She laughed, shaking her head. "Here? People will see." "Let them." He stepped closer, and she gave in. Their movements were small, unhurried, as if the world had slowed just for them. Her head rested against his shoulder. She could smell cedar and rain. In that moment, it didn't matter that he was a billionaire or that she was still counting tips. Maybe love wasn't a luxury. Maybe it was survival, too. When the song ended, neither spoke. The city kept breathing around them, and somewhere in her chest something long asleep began to wake. Morning came with noise. Her phone buzzed, notifications flooding in faster than she could read. The first headline stopped her breath. Billionaire preys on struggling bartender. Her photo, laughing under the streetlight, filled the screen. His hand at her waist. The dance that had felt private now turned into spectacle. Her stomach dropped. Comments, stories, strangers twisting the moment into scandal. By noon, reporters were calling the cafe. Her manager's expression turned cold. Silas called once, then again. She couldn't answer. For the first time since she met him, she felt small again, like the world had decided what she was worth. Love had made her visible. Now it was tearing her open. By Monday, everything had fallen apart. The news cycle wouldn't stop. Reporters called her building. Strangers messaged her with pity, hate, and questions she couldn't answer. At the cafe, whispers followed her. Gold digger. Poor thing. He'll move on. Ariel kept pouring coffee, her smile trembling at the edges. Meanwhile, Silas faced a different war. Investors panicked, his board demanded explanations, and his ex-wife's lawyer fed the story like a wildfire. For him, the scandal threatened his empire. For her, it threatened her life. Then came the letter. Evelyn Hartwell's neat handwriting, the words cold and sharp. Given recent events and questions of stability, I will be filing for guardianship of Luca Hartwell. Ariel's knees went weak. It wasn't just her reputation now, it was her brother, her entire reason for breathing. She pressed the letter to her chest, whispering like a prayer. They can call me whatever they want, but they don't get to take him. The phone rang during her shift. 3 missed calls, then the 4th. This is Dr. Chen from Savannah High. Luca's had a panic episode, the voice said. He's asking for you. Her world blurred. She dropped everything, running through traffic, tears burning down her face. When she arrived, police cars lined the curb. Evelyn was already there, perfect hair, perfect control, standing beside a lawyer. This is exactly why he needs proper care, Evelyn said coldly. Ariel pushed past her straight into the counselor's office. Luca sat, shaking, his sketchbook torn in half. I couldn't breathe, he whispered. She knelt beside him, her voice steady even through the storm. You don't have to. I'll breathe for both of us. Evelyn's voice cut through the air. You're unfit, Ariel. Look at him. Ariel rose slowly. No, look at you. You see a liability. I see my family. The world could collapse. She'd still choose him, every time. The door burst open. Silas stood there, tie loosened, eyes storm gray and blazing, with a lawyer at his side. Mrs. Hartwell, he said evenly, we need to talk. Evelyn's expression curdled. This is a family matter. Then stop treating it like a headline, he shot back, dropping a folder on the table. We have proof of your communications with the press, of the leaked custody documents. Dr. Chen froze. The lawyer beside Silas nodded, confirming every word. Evelyn's color drained. I was protecting. That's not protection, Mrs. Hartwell. Silas's voice was calm, lethal. That's manipulation. Ariel stood speechless, heart pounding. He'd risked his company, his name, everything, to defend hers. For the first time, Evelyn faltered. You'll regret this. Maybe, Ariel said softly, but I'll regret nothing that saves my brother. Luca's hand found hers. Silas stepped closer, his gaze steady. You're not alone in this anymore, he said. And for the first time in years, she believed it. The room went silent. Luca stood, trembling but firm, his voice raw. You don't know her, he said, staring straight at Evelyn. You don't know what she's done for me. Dr. Chen tried to calm him, but the boy's words came faster, stronger, like something long buried had broken free. When everyone else gave up, she didn't. He pointed at Ariel, tears shining in his eyes. When I couldn't get out of bed, she sat on the floor beside me. When I stopped eating, she left notes on the counter that said, stay. She's the only one who never walked away. Evelyn's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The truth had landed where lawyers couldn't reach. Ariel's knees gave out, and she covered her mouth, choking on a sob. Silas moved behind her, steady as a wall. Luca stepped forward, placing his hand in hers. She's not perfect, he whispered, but she's mine, and I'm hers. The room blurred in tears, even Dr. Chen's voice trembled when she said softly, maybe. That's what real family looks like. For a moment, no one moved. Then Silas reached out, his hand finding Ariel's. Luca's small hand rested on top. 3 hands, one trembling, one calloused, one steady. A chain forged in pain, but held by love. Sunlight filtered through the school window, cutting across their joined fingers. It painted them gold. Evelyn turned away, her heels clicking down the hall, retreating not in defeat, but in the quiet recognition that she'd lost something she never understood. Silas's lawyer spoke softly to Dr. Chen. "We'll withdraw the petition. Permanently." Dr. Chen nodded. "Then this is over." Ariel exhaled for the first time in days. Luca pressed against her side. Silas leaned close and whispered, "You carry the world, Ariel. Let us hold it too." She didn't answer with words. She just tightened her fingers around theirs. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was home. 2 weeks later, the world looked different. Savannah's spring air was warm again, and the Belmont Gallery buzzed with quiet awe. "Fragments of home," the sign read. Luca's art lined the walls, pieces born from pain, now shimmering with light. Ariel stood in the back, her hands clasped. The centerpiece showed a woman holding up a fractured world, but she wasn't alone anymore. Dozens of hands reached in, supporting, lifting, sharing the weight. Silas came to stand beside her, his tie loosened, his smile soft. "Looks like he found his voice," he said. "He found more than that," Ariel whispered. "He found hope." Across the room, Luca laughed with a curator, sunlight catching his hair. For the first time, she saw him not as a boy she had to save, but as someone who had survived. With her, not because of her. Silas took her hand. "And so did you." Ariel looked at the painting again. Maybe broken pieces didn't mean the end. Maybe they were just the start of something beautiful. After the gallery closed, the night air was soft and full of music drifting from the square. Ariel and Silas walked beneath the old magnolias, their fingers brushing. He stopped suddenly, turning to her. His eyes, storm gray as ever, held no hesitation. "I love you," he said quietly. "Not despite your scars, but because of them." Her breath caught. "I love the way you fight for everyone but still forget yourself. I love that you carry the world and still find room to forgive it." Her tears came before the words did. "You saw me when no one else did." He smiled, pulling a small ring from his pocket. "Then let me keep seeing you. Every morning. Every storm." Ariel's hands trembled as she nodded. The world narrowed to his voice, his touch, his promise. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. The city around them pulsed with life, the same streets where they'd first met. Only this time she wasn't serving coffee to strangers. She was holding the hand of the man who'd taught her what forever could mean. Months later, Savannah's hospital lights replaced the cafe's neon glow. Ariel stood in her nurse's uniform, badge clipped, hands steady. After years of working 2 jobs, she was finally back in school, finishing what she'd once abandoned. She'd earned a scholarship. Her name, Ariel Wynn, written at the top in bold print. Silas had kept his promise too. The Wynn Foundation had become a beacon for lost youth. Artists, students, kids like Luca. "Second chances shouldn't depend on luck," he'd said at the opening ceremony. "They should depend on love." Luca volunteered at the art therapy wing every weekend, teaching children how to turn pain into color, and Ariel, walking through those halls, realized that healing wasn't a single act. It was a rhythm, a heartbeat shared between all who refused to give up. In giving others light, they had found their own. 2 years later, New York shimmered in gold. The gallery was crowded, the name Luca Wynn glowing across the entrance. Ariel stood near the center, her nurse's scrubs hidden beneath a soft coat, her hand resting gently over the curve of her stomach. Silas stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. On the walls hung Luca's greatest work, a sweeping mural titled Home. It showed a woman dancing under city lights, her hands raised toward a sky full of color. Around her, people reached upward, holding her steady. Reporters asked questions, cameras flashed, but Ariel saw only her brother, confident, smiling, free. When he found her in the crowd, he mouthed the words, "We made it." Silas leaned in, whispering against her hair. "You gave him wings. Now he's flying." She smiled, eyes shining. "We all are." The applause swelled around them, but Ariel felt peace, quiet, complete. For the first time, her world wasn't breaking. It was blooming. Ariel once thought survival was all she was born for. That strength meant never falling, never asking, never needing, but love. Love taught her something deeper, that living means letting yourself be seen. It means trusting the hands that reach for you when the world feels too heavy. Because somewhere between fear and hope, she found her home. Not in walls or paychecks or perfect plans, but in the hearts that refuse to give up on her. In a world that forces us to choose between survival and happiness. Would you have the courage to choose love? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to our channel and stay with us. Because somewhere out there, another story like Ariel's is waiting to be told.